Hi, I'm Genevieve and I'm an artist and a designer.
I'm Shireen and I'm a curator for this exhibition and also a strategy consultant.
So the show is called A Place with No Sand, and it's a series of experiments, exploration and deconstruction of the material glass.
The show, on a more fundamental level, is about ecological relationships between materials, humans, and activities. And on a deeper level, it really is a commentary about the technical processes or the systems that underpin the way we relate to materials.
When I first encountered glass sand, it's actually because of research that I was doing. I'm inspired by the material itself. When glass was crushed to sand, I think that was the most interesting state in which I've seen glass, because glass is actually a very dangerous material when you dispose of it. But once it went through this machine that's able to crush it to its sand form, we can then start to touch it, which is very unfamiliar to me. And because of that, I was fascinated with perhaps seeing how did glass end up the way it is. The reason why I could change glass into glass sand was because of a machine that I got through to work with under a grant from Design Singapore. And the research was really to change glass base to glazes. So basically, glaze is a very thin layer of glass above clay. And when I'm researching about glaze, I'm essentially researching about glass. And because of that research, the output, I needed to have an output in both design and art, because it tells two different stories.
For me, in composition, so the works that have the three frames in a set, I think for me that actually shows the trajectory of material histories, and from the point of extraction or origin of their imported context, I think why I've resonated so much with that work is because I know that was a lapse I also have in my material and technical knowledge about materials. And working so much with materials, not in just the form of arts, but also in culture, looking at knowledge as material as well. It's so important in today's context also to understand the histories of materials before we embark in trying to create relationships or interact with them, whether in the form of artworks, whether in the form of exhibitions, or generally. So I think in composition, because you can see that basically a trajectory from their points of origin, and then how it looks like, or what it basically is made of, and finally looking at that transformative aspect that has been experimented upon by the artist, that to me is resonated so much.
So I think feel is the first work that I wanted to do. I basically, when I first encountered glass sand, I wanted to feel a whole room with it, and for people to step on it, interact with it, and almost bringing them somewhere else. And I think that is also the reason for the title. But I think after a few rounds of discussion and technically and also symbolically, I decided that perhaps this is a work that should contextualize the entire exhibition from a geological perspective. And that's why I think the abstract drainage pattern of Singapore was mapped onto the glass sand. The pattern in which our waterways are in, it's actually called the radial pattern, meaning it radiates from the highest point in Singapore, which is Bukit Timah Hill. When I say geological perspective, I think if we really understand what geologists do, they work with sediments a lot, in which they would extract a huge core which they have cored out from Earth, and to study the different strata to map out the different climate across the different times, time scale. Because of that, I think rivers is actually one of the natural phenomenon that allows for this strata to be built up. And that's why I think this work really contextualized the entire exhibition from that point of view, through the patterns. The timeline is an interesting timeline. It's very stretched out, but also very compressed in certain parts of the production. The research was extremely long, very stretched out, because I started looking into glass sand on September 2022. Yeah, September 2002. And then I think only in January 2023, I decided that maybe I should work with this material to make something out of it. I don't know what it was yet. So, and then I think through that we've been introduced to each other because we have common interests in like ecology, climate and materials, all three of these. So we were very aligned, and over the course of like the next half of the year we met a few times and started talking what we can potentially show together. And from there we then applied for a space, and then I think that's when the timeline got compressed quite a fair bit, and then we started to work a bit faster in order to get things out and for the show. Seamless. I mean, it was stressful but seamless, right?
Quite seamless, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty seamless. Maybe except for the fact that we didn't hire an installer. I think that was a small...
Maybe something we might need to tweak for future.
Yeah. I think installing, I think this is the first time I've installed my own work. I think that is a huge learning point. And the lights was very thankfully done by my partner.
I think it's also because for both of us, we have jobs outside of this. It's also, I think, giving ourselves some sense of management around that, because this is what we want to do out of our own interests, strong interests, but at the same time, how does that, we need to have a more realistic understanding of how that maps out in your day-to-day, how that maps out against your actual other responsibilities that you have outside of this project as well. And I think that's definitely something I'm taking away quite a lot.
Glass is essentially made out of sand. A large percentage of it is made out of sand. And I think in being able to break glass into sand again and then reconstructing them into its various forms and stages before it becomes the material itself, is something that is symbolic and significant, because we are truly trying to see what's behind the material, and glass being able to take form in its various stages is perhaps the most symbolic kind of thing that we wanted to do here.
And it's also the idea of transformation. I think I kept hearing that also through all the different talks that we've had, that it's the idea of transformation and seeing how that particular material transforms in different environments. And in this case, in the context of this exhibition, you see the transformation in each one of the works. And that also, a deeper interpretation, means that the materials are constantly transforming within the context that they dwell within, and how other species around them are also helping them in that transformation, sometimes in a way that is more extractive. I think being able to draw parallels and understand the more symbolic interpretation of the work beyond the visual, because what I've noticed about Jen's kind of methods as well is that the visual is always an accompaniment to something that's deeper, and you can see that, for example, the layers in the works, or even to the finest details like the form of the work itself. There's always a meaning behind that, And it's not always easy to draw that out when we have a very superficial understanding of the exhibition. And that's why we tried to make it as clear as possible that this is about ecological relationships, so people can understand that this is what we want to draw out when we look at it as we go and see each of the works one by one.
As for me, I think Shireen covered quite a fair bit of things I wanted to say, but I think it's really about being in the space and contemplating, regardless how deeply the person understands. I think hopefully the work is able to make them question a little bit, or question a little bit about everything around them, because it really is revealing what is not seen, and that's something that we're so familiar with, like glass. The biggest challenge for this show is the material itself, which most of all of the glass here was made out of glass bottles, disposed glass, like a glass door that was getting thrown away. Essentially, I'm the person that is recycling these bottles by myself. And I think it was good that I went through the process of cleaning the bottles, separating all the different types of material that we can find on a wine bottle. Like there's the metal part that have to be manually removed before I process it into glass sand, because if I crush it together with the glass sand, it becomes like shards. So I think from this exercise of processing the work, I started to understand certain reasons why maybe things are not being recycled, why certain materials are hard to work with, and maybe this is the reason why certain things can't be done. The experience has been great. It was very systematic that we've been introduced to the space. We got a lot of help from the team, and I really appreciate that. And thankfully, we had the patron support as well. And because of that funding, I think we could really work with an array of different people, like the graphic designers, the sound artists who had also contributed a soundscape to the entire show. So I think because of all of the support and funding, this show was perhaps more holistically presented well compared to maybe without funding. Yeah, so very thankful.
Like Jen, really amazing experience, because I really think that the team here has also supported us, not just in, I think it's also in community spirit. There is a sense of community here, and we feel that a lot throughout the entire process, like just calling, checking on us when we were installing, Dina, Hazel, Eve, just peeping in to see what's going on, how's things going. We feel mutually supported by that. Oftentimes when you're being given a space also, you feel there is a bit of a dynamic in that relationship where you feel like you need to create value for yourself, but I never felt this way. It was all very natural and organic. We were first introduced as people with distinct practices, but now I consider her a friend, even like a close friend. And that's my summary of the relationship that we have.
So sweet. Mine is equally the same. We developed a friendship through the entire journey, which I'm very thankful to have worked with Shireen for 1 year plus. Yeah, and I think that's more than anything a working relationship can come out of. And yeah, so in putting the exhibition together, I've gained a lot more than just the works. I've gained like people that I can work with. Oh no, she's like cringing. No, but like seriously, you know. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure whether that's a good thing. Yeah.
How Jen and I met was through Moses Tan from Starch. Moses is a very good friend of mine, and he just said to me one day, you need to meet this artist, exactly aligned in terms of what you guys are so interested in terms of research, practice, and we scheduled to meet. That was about a year
plus. Yeah. 1 year. I can't remember. Yeah.
It was more than a year now, I think. Yeah.
More, definitely more than a year, and that was how we met. Yeah. Jen, yeah. She's very responsible. Like just continuing saying she's very responsible.